Hi, I'm Bruce Bolger, founder of the Enterprise Engagement Alliance, and also instructor for this class today on employee engagement tactics. And this is a critical session for anybody in management because companies spend a lot of money on strategies and tactics to engage people without often any type of measurable result. So, this session is all about how to apply a strategic and systematic approach to engagement tactical solution selection so that you implement the programs that can achieve a clear bottom line result for your organization. So I'd like to now share my screen and proceed with the presentation on employee engagement tactics and what management needs to know about the best practices and business models of the various types of engagement solutions. I think the most important thing to consider when looking at engagement solutions is that they should be part of a strategic and systematic approach rather than a tactical, bright and shiny object approach that's prevalent in many companies. Many companies don't have clear measurement practices for their engagement investments and spend a lot of money on employee engagement surveys, training, culture, coaching, rewards and recognition, loyalty, diversity, without any type of clear measures. So, the most important thing to remember is that you can indeed measure the impact of your employee engagement programs and that you can make sure that they are aligned and integrated to achieve your organization's goals. And be advised that most companies do not have any type of clear measures for what they do. Under 20% of companies have any type of ROI for their human capital plan, for their different types of engagement tactics, for their human capital management practices. So, this is a big opportunity to create new value for your organization out of what are now sunk costs. And what's really important is to have a clear dashboard so that you can see whether what you're doing is actually achieving any types of results. There are indeed clear measures that can be used to measure the ROI of your human capital investments. And if you keep those measures up to date, you'll be able to see whether your individual programs are having any type of real impact. Keep in mind, as we covered in the course number 3, that there are measures such as human capital value add, human capital return on investment, revenues, profits per employee, customer, channel partner, diversity, equity, and inclusion success, training and development efficiency, and the ROI of expenses related to sales and marketing, incentives, recognition, loyalty, training and benefits, and communications. So your engagement toolkit has plenty of different tools, and companies spend a lot of money on them. And the important thing to recognize, though, is that without a strategic and systematic approach, you're likely, again, not to get any kind of clear benefits. So you really want to look at having a strategic process design. You want to look at brand and culture definition and alignment so that everybody's working on the same page or singing from the same songbook. You want to have human capital dashboards tied to performance, as we've showed you, and also, of course, in course 3. Assessment and feedback is a critical set of tools. Recruitment and onboarding, collaboration and innovation, diversity and inclusion, job design, communications in every media, learning, loyalty, rewards and recognition, and the use of brands selectively to make an impact, engagement technology, and as I said, human capital and external reporting. All of these are part of your engagement toolkit. And for many companies, you might already be doing these things. So, one of the things you want to always do is look at them strategically. So, no matter what your tactic might be, culture, leadership, recruitment and diversity, compensation and benefits, training and development, communications, innovation, feedback, analytics, any of those, you really want to take a look at, do you have a clear measurement practice for it? Are you really measuring the ROI? How well are they aligned with your overall brand and culture strategy? Or do you have a digital solution? Today, almost all of these tactics can be managed on one engagement platform or one interface with your employees so that they can connect with your organization and take advantage of all of its resources via their smartphone. How aligned are these with your overall goals? And is the CEO really committed? Does the CEO know about the program? Is the CEO doing anything to monitor its results? If the CEO isn't involved, chances are you're going to get less impact. And it's also very important to take an iterative, sequential, step-by-step approach to process design. You want to see how all of these various tactics work together. Most companies, as I said, silo these approaches so that it might be that your assessment process is never really being utilized in any way to improve performance, that your leadership culture is just a one off effort that's not in any way connected to your learning or communications or rewards platforms. Likewise, with recruitment and diversity or compensation or anything else that you do, you want to see how all of these work together to achieve a goal rather than to take a siloed approach. So let's look at brand and culture alignment and definition. This is a critical area because you want to make sure that everybody in your organization is aligned with your purpose and that all of your training and communications or with any stakeholders sing from the same songbook. So, brand and culture and definition and alignment ensures that purpose is aligned with the brand and culture and addresses all of your stakeholders, shareholders, customers, employees, distribution partners, your communities. And this process requires a strategic approach that enables all stakeholders to visualize what that company and all of its stakeholders look like on its best day. So it's the establishment of a management dashboard for human capital management relevant to your business with a focus on ROI and measurement so that everything is aligned toward your brand and culture. Engagement technology is a critical area as well. This is the ability now to have all of your engagement efforts on one platform integrated together that's available to everybody on their smartphone. The smartphone today has become the multilingual, multi platform way to reach everybody because almost everybody in the world today, even in the most forbidden places, has a smartphone. So, the opportunity with engagement technology is to identify the key levers of engagement critical to your business and their current state of seamless digitalization, integration, and alignment. Are your different efforts being aligned on that platform, or do people have to log in, log out, go from here, go to there? Are you getting a comprehensive dashboard that's showing the activity, or do you have to go to get multiple reports? If there's little integration of your digital platforms for engagement, chances are you're missing out on a big opportunity. So the business model for engagement technologies, usually there'll be some advisory and implementation fees, setup fees, and most today are on a SaaS model. That is, you pay a per seat charge per employee based on the number of employees that you have. And the return on investment should be improved performance in your human capital ROI and value added numbers that I showed you before, higher revenues and profits per customers and employees, greater willingness to recommend, and you should be able to see whether the level of engagement in that platform. Are people using it? Have their levels of training improved? Have their levels of knowledge improved? Are their levels of recognition improved or employee satisfaction through surveys? So there are lots of ways to measure the benefits of an employee engagement technology. Assessment and feedback is another critical area that many organizations spend money on without getting proper results. And this is the matter of monitoring the level of engagement and willingness to recommend of key stakeholders and their understanding of brand values. So whether you use any type of pulse surveys, which are now becoming increasingly prevalent, those are surveys that are very quick, one or two questions that are done more often, or you're doing more established 10 question type surveys. Either way, it's very important to take action. Don't just do a survey if you're going to put it up on the shelf. Make sure that there's a methodology to get that information to the right hands and that there's an action plan and that no survey takes place without a clear evaluation of what actually happened. Ideally, assessment can detect yellow, red, or green zones based on your locations or your managers so that you can get a sense not only of how people feel, but how they feel about their managers. The business model for most of these platforms, there might be advisory and reporting fees, setup fees. And again, most of them are going to be per seat charges. And again, you should be able to see if you're effectively using these top platforms in increased productivity, quality, and retention if you're taking the information from these surveys and using them to drive decisions. Recruitment, pay, and onboarding. Uh, that's now increasingly being known as talent branding. The idea of having a clear talent brand that's aligned with your overall brand and purpose that I discussed earlier. And this is a process to identify not only the aptitude of people, but their emotional suitability to the job and culture. And it's also a plan of thinking out of the box and building a diverse tool of talent. 60 Minutes had a program not long ago on how companies are taking advantage of people with such conditions as Down syndrome or other Asperger's or autism, because it turns out that people with certain disabilities often have very special talents in one or other areas that are other people who are, quote, normal do not excel at. So one of the really big things is not only looking at your talent brand, but looking at your talent needs and thinking out of the box, because there's terrific talent out there in different cultures, in different capabilities, and even in different disabilities that can enhance the power of your organization. Generally, companies that help you with talent branding will charge you advisory fees for talent branding. And then, of course, recruitment is usually based on a percent of the first year's salary. And the ROI should be higher employee retention and greater willingness to recommend. Diversity and inclusion is a critical new area today, and it really shouldn't be seen as corporate social responsibility. It should really be seen as a way to create new markets of customers who you would have never thought of having before. Because once you have a group of customers that like you, they're going to recommend you to their colleagues, and it enables you to broaden your channel partner relationships. Perhaps there are minorities and more minority communities that you're not reaching. Having channel partners that represent those communities can help you improve performance as well. And the same, of course, goes for customers and employees or any type of stakeholder. Diversity is a strength, but it doesn't work if you just do it to put check off a box. The idea is to include and create communities, vibrant communities that represent different parts of this beautiful American mosaic in order to get people really enthused to become brand ambassadors, both for talent or for customers or distribution partner. So diversity inclusion experts, they'll generally charge you advisory fees, internal management fees. And again, your goal should be to see an improvement in those human capital metrics, higher revenues, profits per employees, higher levels of engagement, greater human capital ROI and value add. Remember that diversity can be a real motivator. People flock to big cities oftentimes because they enjoy the whole world of diversity in terms of cuisines, culture, viewpoints, music, dance, theater, art. So look at diversity inclusion as a business opportunity, not just a nice to have. Job design is a much overlooked critical area, and that is creating jobs and the way the jobs are done that make people want to do them, that break up monotony. Companies like Trader Joe's, they have a great program that moves employees throughout the floor of each store throughout the day. So nobody's at checkout all day. Nobody's in the bread area all day. Nobody's in the fruit and vegetable area all day. They move people around. And what this means is that they become knowledgeable about the different departments, and this enables them then to fill in when people leave. And it also just breaks up the day. People at Trader Joe's will tell you that the day goes faster. So look at how you can build jobs like that in your own organization, whether on the manufacturing floor or even an office. Look at how you can break up somebody's job so that they're not doing the same thing every day, or that they're not doing the same thing all day long. So there are experts, a growing number of experts who focus on job design, and they're there to help you find ways to structure a job that maximizes the level of engagement. And you look for ways, as I said, to break up those menial tasks, or you organize tasks so that people can share them. And then you strategically map out how people of different skills and aptitudes can advance to higher levels or broaden the tasks that they can take on. The business model, again, for this is going to be advisory fees, and the ROI should be enhanced productivity, quality, and reduced turnover. Communications today is one of the most critical areas in an organization, especially with the work for home phenomenon that was born during the pandemic and that promises to continue for years, if not decades. Because again, flexibility is something that is highly motivational to people. And the whole concept of commuting, it takes up a lot of time. And companies are beginning to realize that they can create comprehensive shall we say, engagement, even when people aren't in the office every day, but only with great communications. And of course, this is where the technology of an employee engagement or an engagement technology platform can help. But the critical thing here to unite all of your communications is to identify a clear story and messaging so that throughout the year, everybody is working off of that same playbook. You want to determine the best combination of media for your organization. Does video make sense? Is it digital? Is it print? Is it posters? Is it handouts? Each organization is different based on where people work, what their language capabilities are, the nature of their jobs. So it's really important to look at this strategically each year. And what are the right mix of communications? What makes sense? What is going to engage? What is going to show up as being effective in terms of people's level of knowledge about the information that we're sharing with them. And then, of course, it's really important to break that story into snippets. People are overwhelmed. They can't spend a lot of time reading a bunch of things. People absorb things in sound bites, as we all know. So the idea is to take a look at your story, and you might be able to do this at the beginning of the year and then break that story down into 52 snippets. That's one for each week. And then look at how you can integrate that story across multiple platforms. Maybe they see it via email. Maybe they see it in your company's internal social media platform. Maybe they see it in a printed document put on their desk. Whatever it is, the whole idea is to integrate it and to realize that people generally need to hear something about 7 times for them to remember it. And that doesn't mean all at the same time. Seth Godin, the well-known marketing guru, calls it drip marketing, and it's as true today as it was when he came up with the idea in the last century. Learning is a critical area and one that's been transformed by technology. More and more, we talk about micro learning. That is the ability for people to learn very quickly in snippets, again, with applications oftentimes on their smartphones. And these should be broken into modules or lessons that people can quickly grasp and that they're tested on right away and that are reinforced in later episodes so that people build upon their knowledge. But the critical thing, once again, with every other aspect of engagement, is to have an overall strategy. It's not just a matter of training people, it's training them to the skills that are relevant to their success. It's also critical to train them around the time that they're going to be using that information so they can apply it. Because the goal at the end of the day is to maximize productivity, quality, and the levels of engagement. And you're not going to do that with just one long day of training or a half day of training. It's going to be best accomplished in micro snippets where people can clearly absorb a particular item, test themselves on it, make sure they understand it, and then move on. And it's very important for organizations to emphasize not just hard skills that they need for their jobs, but also soft skills, emotional skills, especially for managers, because it's a well known fact around the world that people leave their managers as often as they leave their jobs. And those frontline managers rarely are properly trained. And many times they become power hungry or egotistical, and that wonderful employee becomes a monster when they become a manager. So everybody who is in charge of people should be treated as if they're a mini CEO, because in fact, they are a mini CEO with the employees that work for them. So, and when it comes to training, that's a particularly important area. And it's not about browbeating people into being nice to their colleagues. It's about really helping people understand and get to know people from different areas. So, if you are considering training in diversity, It should be very much inclusive. It should be very much face to face as much as possible in this pandemic world or in the post-pandemic world. Whatever world we're in, you want to make sure that people are actually interacting. And sometimes one of the great ways to do that is through funded programs, social responsibility efforts, group activities, um, even things like cooking programs or music programs or greater entertainment programs are a great opportunity for everybody to get together and to learn about each other's lives. And when it comes to learning, it's very important for people to understand the why. Why am I learning this? Why is it important? And it's exceptionally important to provide rapid feedback and to gamify things whenever possible. Gamifying could be with points, contests, sweepstakes, whatever you can do to make it fun. Also, these new technologies, micro learning technologies, are indispensable today because the best of these programs enable you to rapidly spin up a new training program broken into modules that could include, again, videos, things for people to read, exercises that people can test themselves on rapidly and get reinforced. And reinforcement is critical. If somebody succeeds at a training program, they should hear from their manager. They should be recognized for it. It should become a part of a sense of their accomplishments. The business model for learning, obviously advisory fees if you're hiring a learning management systems practitioner. And then for software, you're usually going to be looking at per seat charges. And what should be the ROI? Again, you'd be looking at those bigger metrics we've talked to you about before, human capital ROI and value add, and also, of course, results on their tests and quizzes that are used as part of the training. But most importantly, you should see impact in quality, productivity, and retention. Collaboration and innovation is another critical area that should never be assumed. And this is the whole strategic process of getting people within your organization to work together, share information. And again, this is where your digital platform can come in. If you have a private social network, if you have an engagement platform, you can use those platforms often to foster sharing of information, suggestion systems. It's the old word for innovation, and that is the idea of encouraging people to provide ideas. And the critical thing is not just to have a program, but to make sure people are using it, to make sure that if they do provide an idea, that they get feedback on that idea, that they've heard that somebody looked at it. And if the idea is implemented, they should be recognized for it, commensurate to the contribution. If somebody comes up with a multi-million-dollar idea, providing them with a t-shirt that says I'm great isn't going to necessarily cut it. The research shows that recognition for ideas, innovation should be commensurate with their contribution, because the whole idea is not just to motivate people, but it's to create a buzz. Holy cow, Jane received this trip or this wonderful dinner out, or this, she got a brand new television because she contributed this great idea that helped the organization improve performance. You want to make it easy for people to collaborate and innovate through technology or other reinforcements, and then you want to make sure they're rewarded when they actually, get involved, collaborate, and innovate. And again, the advisory services provided for this are going to be basically usually based on fees. If there's software involved, there'll be setup fees, per seat charges. And again, in this case, the ROI, that's going to be pretty measurable in terms of what new ideas have come out of it. Are they marketing ideas? Are they ideas to improve productivity and quality? Are they ideas to improve stakeholder experiences or employee experiences of any kind? These are the types of ROIs that you can look for in collaboration innovation. Incentive programs are a long-standing strategy that's been used since practically prehistoric times, and that is offering people, of course, incentives and rewards for achieving clear goals. And as we've discussed elsewhere, incentive programs often are designed in a very simple way that is sort of oriented toward do this, get that. When people are more complicated than that, they should not only be motivated to do something, they need to be equipped, they need to be reminded, they need to be congratulated. So look at your incentive program in a holistic way. and make sure that they have clear qualitative measures that look at if what the activities are needed to accomplish to achieve the goals. Have people actually done those activities? Did they achieve the goals? You want to look at both the behaviors being driven and the goals so that you can see whether your program worked. If people didn't do the things necessary to achieve the goals and you achieve them anyway, obviously something else is in play. So you need to promote those goals on an ongoing basis. And the technologies that support employee engagement and whatnot usually enable you to push out information, standing reports, and tips and news that employees can use to, be reminded of what they're trying to accomplish. And one of the very important things is to focus on that middle 60%. So many incentive programs focus on the top 20%, the people who come to work charged up. Even if they hate their jobs, that's the way they were brought up. They work their butts off. That's what they do. You don't need to spend as much time on those people as you do on the middle 60%, whom, if you don't engage and motivate, they'll often kind of settle in at a basic level of performance because they think they can never get into that top 20%. And then look at how you mix up non-monetary, meaningful rewards with cash. They're two separate animals. Non-cash rewards tend to be more emotive. They should be carefully selected either by brands or by the way they're presented or by the product themselves so that they really resonate individually with that person. And you really often want to look at the individual's uh, significant others. Most people live with other people, and those other people are affected by their work. So look at ways that you can involve the significant other in that program. And the business model for these, they're oftentimes there are program design fees. If you're going to hire a company to help you develop and design a program that's going to achieve an ROI, they're entitled to get paid for that time. There could be project management fees if there's a need to manage the process on an ongoing basis. If you're using a technology, there's going to be a per seat charge, and there could be a pay upon issuance charge if people have performed a particular deed or goal that you needed them to do. The organization that helped you do it would generally get some percentage of that return on investment in terms of fees. And the ROI should be the achievement of desired goals and evidence that all of the behaviors that you want people to do to achieve those goals were indeed done. Loyalty programs are an enormous marketplace. They're used by companies with both their customers and their supply chain partners. They're very much like incentive programs, except that they're oriented toward customers or external stakeholders. And the goal here is to really understand the basis for loyalty. What makes somebody feel loyal about your product and service? Likely, it's not the reward that you give them, although that can be part of it, but what really works, obviously, is the feeling that your product and service is delivering what they expect, that the service is as good as the sale, and that if there's a problem, it's being addressed, and that they feel appreciated. And that's where rewards do come in. And oftentimes, companies have a very perfunctory approach to it. It's like, if you get this much and do this much in business, we're going to give you that. I would look to be much more creative about it than that. Rewards should be selected in such a way that people understand how they achieve them, what they had to do to achieve them, or they could be a surprise and delight, where if somebody achieves a particular level of loyalty, they're all of a sudden surprised. But whatever it is, it should be part of a strategy that's carefully done and that's personalized to that individual. And the communications is just as important as the rewards, reminding people of how their loyalty is valued, reminding people of how loyalty is recognized, reminding people of why they should be loyal or why they benefit from being loyal. And then, if you have a redemption platform for those rewards and recognition, people should be able to easily be reminded of other important information about your organization when they go to redeem their rewards. That is a terrific opportunity when people are redeeming rewards to reinforce key messages. A business model, advisory service and project management fees, software fees, could be per seat. although that's less prevalent in loyalty. And then rewards. Obviously, if there are rewards involved, there'll be costs involved with that. And the return on investment is enhanced internal and external customer engagement, loyalty, willingness to recommend, and revenues and profits per customer, employer, whatever's dealer or distributors involved. Recognition is another critical area that companies have been using for years. And again, oftentimes recognition programs are siloed. They're often a little corner. Companies do them year after year for length of service or for attendance or other types of things. When in fact, the best programs reward brand behaviors, activities or actions which, if done more of, support your brand and your business objectives. So the big shift is away from the old concept of service awards. Sure, people that have been with their company for 5 years, 10 years, they genuinely should be recognized and thanked and rewarded in some way. But that's not the key to recognition today. The key to recognition is to drive performance. So look at the specific brand behaviors that you're trying to promote, and that's what you want to promote. And when possible, implement employee engagement software, because these platforms today can integrate everything that you need to communicate, to reward, to create a social recognition where people can thank each other on a social feed within the company, so that all the elements of that recognition platform are available on somebody's smartphone. And what you want to do is align the behaviors encouraged in the program with the overall brand and organizational objectives. That's the big opportunity. And actively involve the frontline managers in the ongoing coaching needed to promote these best behaviors. The managers are just as important as employees when it comes to recognition. They need to be reinforced and trained on how to use recognition in a proper way, consistent with your organization's brands and the program design. And once again, the business model would be an advisory fee for setup and design of the program, software fees, usually on a pay per, for, I should say, a per seat charge. And then in some cases, there might be pay upon performance if you're actually trying to drive particular behaviors. And of course, if they're rewards, there'll be costs for the rewards, which would include, customer service and shipping and whatnot. And the ROI should once again be enhanced internal and external customer engagement as measured by surveys, retention, loyalty, willingness to recommend, and revenues and profits per customer per employee. Rewards and brand media, and this applies to both incentive programs and to recognition, and that is the careful selection of rewards. If you're going to not be careful about selecting non-cash rewards, just give people cash. That's the easiest thing to do. But the trouble with cash is that it becomes expected, it's quickly forgotten, and usually people don't brag about cash rewards. They're very private about that, just as they are about compensation. So carefully selected gifts and rewards in terms of brands and their stories consistent with your organization. For some organizations, you're going to be one affiliated with hunting and guns and things like that, because that's the demographics of your group. But in other organizations, that would be the worst thing you'd want to do. And you'd want to be oriented towards something that's socially responsible or whatever. The idea is know your audience, know your brand, have that sense of your brand purpose, and select brands and rewards that align with that. People make these connections subliminally, but they make them. And carefully distinguish your compensation cash programs from your non-cash recognition and incentives. And always look at the concept of surprise and delight. Research shows and common sense shows that when you surprise somebody spontaneously with a carefully selected gift, properly presented for an important behavior, they'll never forget it. They'll share it with their significant others. They'll share it with their colleagues, and the buzz will just run throughout the office or the company. And the return on investment, once again, greater willingness to recommend, uh, greater willingness to share the experiences with others. And again, you'll be looking at those human capital metrics. Are you seeing an improvement in ROI of human capital? One of the most important areas of business today that's completely overlooked is analytics for human capital, internal and external reporting. There are growing numbers of expert companies that can help you with developing a human capital measurement strategy that it's aligned with your organizational purpose and goals. If you're a publicly held company in the United States today, or if you're a company with over 500 employees in the European Union, you or Great Britain for that matter, you do have to promote I should say, report your key human capital management practices. Every company can report it the way they wish right now, but the idea is to have a comparable report so that each year it builds upon the report from the year before. And these reports should be used internally to make better decisions. And of course, if they're legally required, you have to post them on your website and make them part of your government or stock or Securities and Exchange Commission filings. And what's really important today is to integrate actual data from your permission-based engagement technology platforms to combine qualitative and quantitative information. You want to identify which information to share with whom and the means of implementing the findings rapidly. Analytics are like employee and surveys. If you're getting data from them, you want to use that data. And you do want to use data specialists who can provide prescriptive insights. In other words, data can often give you a hint of what the future will look like if you continue to do X, Y, Z. So look at companies or organizations or experts that can help you with prescriptive analytics, who can look at your data, crunch your data, see trends that you're not seeing about turnover, willingness to recommend, productivity, quality, or whatever it is, so that you can make changes to improve those numbers. Once again, the business model is going to be advisory service fees and potentially software fees, reporting fees, anything related to how that information can be turned into prescriptive analytics might come with a cost, but the ROI is going to be higher human capital ROI and value add, more revenues and profits and willingness to recommend of your stakeholders. That's the key. So we've covered now most of the key tactics. I guess I overlooked knowledge management, which is another growing area, and that's the management of information throughout your organization, where you can actually have a repository of expertise so that when people leave, you have that type of information. And there are also technologies today that support that are based on a SaaS model, and they're advisors, knowledge management experts. Just Google Gut Knowledge Management, and you'll find that there are people that can help you with those strategies as well. And again, knowledge management should have some of the same positive impacts on your key human capital metrics. So some of the potential exams: what is essential to improving the efficiency of your traditional engagement tactics? What are some of the key ways that you can measure these types of tactics? Why are some of these programs ineffective? What are some of the key reasons why these programs often don't work? Name a specific way to improve the efficiency of any engagement tactic. The answer to that, by the way, be strategic and systematic. Incorporate it into your overall plan. Is this tactic actually helping fulfill our company purpose and objectives? And then what types of technology could help improve the use of any engagement technology tactic, I should say. So thank you very much for attending, or I should say participating in this session today. This is one of the most important sessions because this is where companies are continually spending money without getting a clear ROI. About 50% of the money spent on people today are sunk costs with basically a fixed cost with no ROI, when in fact there's no excuse for that. Almost any type of engagement tactic can be measured, can be aligned against your organizational purpose, can be tracked against the fulfillment of that purpose. Thanks again for attending and have a great day.